Great. So I'm going to go in and share my screen. And I guess while we get started, and as I'm sharing today, what I want everybody to do is I want to make sure that you have pen and paper in front of you and a few sheets of paper, if you would, please. Because as you know, most of you know, have engaged with me before. I'm very interactive. It's more of a dialogue. I can stand here and talk to you for an hour, but that wouldn't be as fun. So today I really want to have a conversation about the best version of you. So during this COVID time and in this time of uncertainty, I just want to share with you some of the things that I've done, some of the things that I've went back to on self-reflection, and how can I come out of this a better version of myself. So with that said, here comes Lisa too. With that said, that's what our dialogue is going to be about today. Is I'm just going to share with you what I'm practicing, and I'm hoping to get feedback from all of you, because I'm sure that each and every one of us here have been practicing something different during this time to be better versions of ourselves. So please share with us. I don't claim to be the expert. I'm absolutely the expert at facilitating self-discovery and facilitating discussions. So please add value where you think it's important. With that said, how many of us, share with me in the chat, how many of us are aware of law of attraction, manifestation of, manifesting your destiny, or massive action? Anybody heard of any of those or practiced any of those? Yay, some things are coming up in the chat. So there's a few of us. Great. So I expect feedback. I'm seeing a lot of yeses in here. Need help with implementation. Okay, Denise, this is going to be a talk for you too. So again, as I'm not the expert by any means, I do practice law of attraction, and during this time I really went back to it. So I'm going to share with you how I've done it. We could probably spend hours researching it on the internet, going to mastermind sessions, doing all kinds of things. I kind of broke it down into a few simple steps. I think I have 4 or 5 in here, and this is where I went to actually implement it. So with that said, some of the conversation that we're going to have today is we're going to talk about defining it. Acknowledge. What does acknowledge mean? There's a boundary between defining what we want and then acknowledging where we're at and maybe what is in our way. We're going to talk about the piece of manifesting, the implementation, or how do we invest in ourselves. And then the last 2 things, they're not least important by any means, but I think that they need to come behind so that we really understand what gratitude, and then honestly just breathing in air. How does that change the way we feel? How does that change the way we think? So those are the things we'll be talking about today. So first of all, what I want to say is on your pen and paper that you have in front of you, technology. On your pen and paper that you have in front of you, write down 1 or 2 things. When you think about, let me back up. When you think about that best version of you, think about where you are today and how far are you from that best version of you. That could be the best version of you in any different state. It could be professionally, personally. You can break it down to a role. You're the best version of you as a mother, as a wife, whatever it is for you today, whatever you feel when I say, hey, what does the best version of you look like? Write down a couple of bullet points of what she or he looks like. Anybody want to share with us what those are? And you can unmute yourself.
My first one, Kelly, this is Denise Mills. My first one was intentional. My second one was helpful.
Okay, those are great. Those are great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
This is Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen.
I have a couple of things here. One, as I told you, Kelly, I'm looking for a job. So I see myself in a job that I'm really happy with, where I'm contributing a lot to the organization and to the people that they serve. I also would like to see a state where my anxiety goes down, I'm sleeping at night, I feel good when I get up in the morning. And I also want to get to a state where I don't have to work hard at thinking about the gratitude, that it just comes to me, that I feel in a state of gratitude, not all day, but for a lot of the day.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great. Would you be disappointed if I said to you, though, that the state of gratitude is really, you have to be intentional for a really long time for it to come natural?
Oh, trust me, I've been working on this for a while. So yes, I agree.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing. Somebody else, there was somebody else that we interrupted, and I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine. This is Amy Lynn. The two big ones for me that I have down are faithful and encouraging.
Good. How far are you away from those today, Amy Lynn? I think you probably quantify those already.
Yeah, it depends on the day. So it depends on what kind of crazy we have going on.
Okay, so maybe some consistency around those?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Who else wants to share? What are some things when you think about being a better version of yourself? What are some things that you wrote down?
Okay, I'll break the awkward silence.
I was gonna let it go.
So I put creative, positive, and forward thinking, which I know, Kelly, you're gonna be like, but you are those things. But I think for me, it's being able to devote time and consistency to those things, because sometimes I get caught in the day-to-day activities and caught kind of in a rut. And so that zaps my creativity, it zaps my positivity, and I just can focus on only what's happening right now. And I have trouble sometimes pushing past and looking forward.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and breaking the silence, because I think what you said, I think we've all experienced, right? We get stuck in a rut. We get stuck in a rut, or sometimes, and I know this has happened to me, I don't necessarily get stuck in a rut. Like, I've reached my goals, and then I've got another ceiling to break, and I forget that, hey, there's more after this. Like, I need to keep going. I need to keep pushing forward. And that's why during this time I came back to this, because I was feeling this angst of like, hey, I'm not moving enough, right? Like, there's pause, there's stop. Momentum isn't going forward. So thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? I know we've had a couple people hop on a little bit late, so I'm going to catch you up really quickly. Today we're talking about being the best version of ourselves. And step one that we've talked about here on this slide is really defining what that is. So as we're talking here, in order to catch up, take a 30 seconds to write down 1 or 2 bullet points that really define what the best version of you is.
Well, Kelly, my 2 points were right in line with Amy's.
Yeah.
I had creative and disciplined, because I got to be disciplined and stay on task so that I can accomplish all the creative thought processes and things that I need to do.
Great. Thank you. And what does discipline look like to you? Because I think we have the definition of it, but what does it really mean to you?
Having an agenda and sticking to it, just being purposeful.
Yeah. Love it.
With my task.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. One of the things, and this is not rocket science, we've heard it before. We've heard it probably at younger ages, like, you are what you eat, right? If you fill your body with nutritious things, you're going to have energy and feel better. And if you fill your body with, heavy things or junk food or sugars, we're probably going to feel that too. It's the same with our mind. So when we define what we want, we really are what we believe. What we believe we can achieve, like, right? Henry Ford says, actually, if you go look at if you go look at that saying that says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're correct. There's like 3 people that have said that they've said that, but that's the truth, is we really are what we believe. So today's mission is I'm going to tie all of these things that we've defined that we want, that's the best version of ourselves, we're going to tie them to a feeling. And that's where the implementation comes in, is defining it to that feeling. So we are what we tell ourselves every day, every single day. Sometimes does anybody have a guess? Share with me in chat. Does anybody have a guess how many thoughts go through our mind every day? Somebody want to guess a number in chat? 10,000, 10,000, higher. 1 million, a little lower. There you go. Kathleen has it. So Harvard, somebody way smarter than me, right? They do research on this. It's in that 70,000 area. 70,000 thoughts a day go through our mind, right? And I think for women, it's probably a little bit more because our minds don't shut off sometimes. But think about 70,000 thoughts go through your mind a day. If you had to categorize those, if you had to split them in 2 different buckets, positive thoughts and negative thoughts, which one would fill up first? Positive thoughts or negative thoughts, which one would fill up first? Some of us are saying negative. Yep. And if we're real with ourselves, I mean, there's probably studies out there too that's a really fine line. Right? The negative thoughts can get really heavy. So we often say to ourselves, we can define what we don't want. Like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do this. But we don't spend enough time on thinking about what we do want. So that's our goal for today, is what we do want. So think about those positive thoughts versus negative thoughts, and know that you really are what you believe, and we are what we tell ourselves every single day. It's not what we tell ourselves once or twice a year when we're goal setting. It's what we tell ourselves every day that's going to get us to where we want to be. All right. Any questions here before I move on? Okay. Well, where's it going to let me click to move on? So what stands in the way of what we view the best version of ourselves being and how to get there is this: fear. And this is real. So, there's lots of definitions of fear. The one that I like to use the most is fear is false evidence appearing real. And I'll say that again, it's false evidence appearing real. But the flip side of that is it's real to us. It feels real. And I say this oftentimes when I'm speaking to leaders, but it's impactful for us even as individuals. When I say to leaders, a lot of times I'll say to them, leaders of large organizations, and pretend that they're going through an organizational change, right? I'll say to the leaders, help me understand, how are you communicating with their team? How are you communicating with your teams during this change? And they might say, oh, we're putting a message out every once in a while, or we're not, we're going to figure it out first. This is where I call a timeout. And we need to realize that human behavior is that if somebody isn't telling us everything that we need to know, human behavior says that we create a narrative, right? So we will tell ourselves a story. And that's how it impacts you personally. This is where fear comes in. It's really the stories that we're telling ourselves, right? The stories that we create in our minds, that we tell ourselves to complete the picture, that are really probably false most of the time. They end up becoming really big walls that stand in the way to the best version of ourselves. Anybody have any thoughts or input on that? Just unmute yourself. We're a small group.
When I worked at Poly High Salvador and we were going through a major culture change, they'd rewritten the mission and all of those types of things, I kept focusing on your actions say so much. And we had a plant manager that was very focused. And so he needed to get from point A to B in the plant. And so he looked down the whole way. And employees' perception was, I'm next to be cut. And he couldn't understand why they felt that way. And I said, because you need to acknowledge them as people. And so then when he realized that, he even started going into the employee entrance in the mornings rather than in the, the office and those types of, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if not, we create narratives in our mind, right? Based on what we believe or what we see or how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the things that you've done to yourself. Think about things that we've barricades or stories that we've told ourselves or feelings that we've given ourselves that probably aren't really true, that are stopping you from what you just did 5 minutes ago. Defining, I want to be intentional. I want to be creative. I want to be more focused. All of those things that we just wrote, what are things that are stopping you from doing that today? What are those barriers? Take a second, write down a couple of them. And let's share them as a group.
I think for me, Kelly, the two barriers that have been a part of my life when I was a coach and even as an athlete were courage and confidence. They became barriers, even though I knew I could succeed, but I didn't really believe that others had courage in me or the confidence in me to succeed. And I allowed those to be barriers when I should have easily jumped over those and not allowed them to hold me back.
Those are great. Those are two. So if anybody's ever studied comfort zones, right, those are the two that lead you right outside of your comfort zone and out of fear. Confidence and courage will lead you right out from your comfort zone. There's the next circle is fear. Right out of that actually starts changing, right? And you start growing. So thank you, Jerry. Those are great. Confidence and courage. What else? Who else wants to share?
I had both of those, and I will also add discipline. To really, you have to have the desire, but you also have the discipline to work hard to get to where you want to go, because it takes work.
It does. Anybody else have discipline on here? I have discipline on mine all the time too. So one of the things that I want to say there's some chats coming up. Yep, there's some other people that have discipline. So one of the things that I would say with discipline, it's always so sorry, Kathleen, I'm going to go a little deeper on that one because it's always a hot point for me because it's one of mine personal too, is that I had to really define what discipline was. Discipline and consistency need to be, those are two of mine, right? I want to be more disciplined and consistent, and I need to do this. And I would say I had to watch my words. I need to do versus I'm going to do. So I had to watch my words. Also, I had to have a real conversation with myself. We can be disciplined when we commit. So I had to look at all of the things that I wanted to be on my list, right? Like when I defined everything, when I defined it, I had to look at everything that I wanted to be and say, am I really committed to this? Because if I'm not, I've got to take it off because it's actually holding me back from being the best version of me. If I'm not committed to it, I'm not going to be disciplined. I'm not going to be intentional. I'm not going to be all of those words that I want to be. So think about it from that aspect too. All right, anybody else have any fears that they want to share? I know that's a scary one. Some other things that I want to say to this is we have to give ourselves grace at this time too. We have to let go of the person we used to be and look forward to the person we want to be. We have to let go of the person we used to be and look forward to the person we want to be. That is really, really hard. there's subjects like IR theory that go into that, our roles versus our identity. And if any of you have been with me, you know I can talk. I'm passionate about that subject too. We have to give ourselves permission to grow.
Kelly,
Yes.
I noticed Julie put a comment in the comment box that I'm not sure if you were able to see it yet, but one of her fears, which I thought was really great, it says, not enough information. So the fear of not enough information holds her back from being able to go forward. And I think that's a really great observation. Thank you, Julie, for that.
Yeah, that is. And Julie, I'm going to come back to that after I make one more statement that I want to get out there on the fears. And then I'm going to come back and push a little harder on that. So thank you, Rob, for bringing that up. When you face a fear, right, or an obstacle or a barrier, whatever we want to call it, I just like fear. But when you face a fear, an obstacle, or a barrier, and something's holding you back from getting to where you want to be, I want you to write this down. I want you to ask yourself this question. Because in my world, I hear a lot of excuses, a lot. And I have to be intentional when I hear them come out of my own mouth too. But when you hit one of those barriers, those fears, obstacles, I want you to ask yourself these two things. Is it technical? Is this very technical? Meaning I don't have the skills and ability. I don't have the tools that I need to succeed. That there's, like for example, if I wanted to be a veterinarian, obviously I have to have a degree to do that. So that might be something technical that's holding me back. Or is this fear, obstacle, or barrier, is it conceptual? Meaning, is it false evidence appearing real? Is it a story that I've told myself, something that I've believed, a script that I've written? And if you tell yourself that it's conceptual, that is on you to control. You have to rewrite your script, right? So if you've been with me in other sessions, you might have heard I'll pull the BS card on this one, pull it on yourself, right? Or what I might ask you to do is realize it's conceptual and literally rewrite a different thought about that. Any questions on that? Any thoughts? I see a lot of thinking. Some of you have been with me before, so you know what I mean when I say head trash. This is head trash. It's conceptual stories that we've written, we've told ourselves that really aren't true, and they're holding us back. They're holding us back, and that's how we move forward. Okay, Julie, I want to come to you. Do you have the ability to unmute, Julie? Okay, she doesn't. All right, so tell me more about what is it from an information standpoint that's holding you back? Does it hold you back from making decisions?
Julie's unmuted now. I unmuted her, so she should be able to speak.
Can you hear us, Julie, or can you speak now, Julie? Okay, maybe not. So she can't speak, but yes, sometimes not having information holds her back. Okay. So what I might ask you to ask yourself, and you have my number, we can talk after this too offline. What I might ask you to ask yourself is, can you make a good decision and define good for yourself? Can you make a decision with the information you have? Because sometimes we also hold ourselves back thinking that we need more information. So that could actually be a conceptual issue in our mind that's still holding us back. But we can talk more about that too. All right, anything else on these fears, these obstacles, these barriers that hold us back? And everybody has a few of them. Everybody has a few of them written down? Okay. So now that you have a few of them written down, tell me, look at them again. Are they technical or are they conceptual? And share with me in the chat box. Okay, so we have a couple conceptual, or we have a few conceptuals, one technical, conceptual. Most are conceptual. Okay, so for the conceptual ones, pick the first one that's the biggest barrier in front of you right now. For those of you who said the barriers that are in front of me or the fears that are in front of me are conceptual, pick the one that is the biggest right now and rewrite it. Right? Rewrite it. This is the first baby step. Rewrite it. Does anybody need an example? Yes, an example. Okay, so an example, a personal example, again, sharing my journey with you. And it happens often, but I really recall it when I first jumped in and partnered into the business. I left corporate America, working for large organizations, and I started working for myself. I have my own business inside the business. And for a really long time, the words that would come out of my mouth is, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. Now, some of you might qualify that as a technical issue. It was not. It was conceptual. So I wrote down one day, I don't have time, because that's what I was saying over and over and over, and it was stopping me from being the best version of myself, professionally and personally. So I wrote down, I don't have time. And then I rewrote it to say, I am great at prioritizing my time, right? Putting my most important priorities first. Everything else will come at the bottom of the list. Then when I looked, so I did that for 2 weeks, right? So literally I started using my calendar, my business started excelling. I realized that I was kind of slacking with my family. I had to reprioritize again. But now what happens, it goes back to that commit and that consistency and that dedication comment. I have to look at things, and this might seem bad, but time is our one resource that is not renewable. It's not renewable. We don't know when it's going to end. We only get so much, and it's not renewable. Nothing we do is going to give us back more time. So for me, time is of the most important essence, and I am a stickler about my priorities, right? So maybe so Kathleen, if you were on the phone with us or on the call with us earlier, Kathleen's like, hey, we met 5 years ago and you're going to be on the board. Literally at that time was the time in my life where I was saying, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. While I wanted to be on a board, it was not a priority, and it went to the bottom of the list, and I couldn't feel guilty for it. So that's an example of conceptual one. As I kept saying, I didn't have time. I had to rewrite it and then do the things that I said I would do. Is that helpful? Okay, what do you guys have for conceptual before I go to technical? Anybody want to share some conceptual rewrites? Nobody? You know how this works. I'm going to start calling on people. Okay, Kara. We pick on family first, so.
I knew that was coming.
You knew it was coming, I know.
It was coming. One of my barriers was I felt that, my self-perception or my head traces that I don't have enough education. I don't have master's degrees and things like that. But I do have over 30 years of education in the professional environment. So even though I don't have a piece of paper for that, I have a lot of experience.
Yes, so that one's great, and I'm seeing as it pops up too. So you guys, right? So that was how many years ago? How many years ago could you have gotten that piece of paper?
Oh, probably 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2 things that I would say to that. You're valuable without it, right? And if you really feel like you need it and you can't let go of that, when's the best time to start?
Tomorrow.
Today,
Today.
right?
Yep.
So, right, you have X amount of experience. You have to let go of the piece of paper then. If you really feel like if the second part of that you rewrote, you really feel it's true, you have to let go of the first part now. And if you can't let go of the first part, the one thing you can do, then it becomes a technical thing, right? And the one thing you can do is change it by calling a college today and signing up. If it
Indiana Wesleyan's a great place to do that online or on site, Kara. We can talk offline.
Yeah, absolutely. I got mine online and in class there. So thank you, Kara, for being so vulnerable to share with us. I appreciate you. So I know that probably other people feel that way. I've had conversations with people before about that degree or that piece of paper holding them back. We really do have to rewrite that. And there's two options. You have to let it go and believe what you said after it, or you change it today. A couple other ones that Diane brought up, which was great in the chat box, is I'm not good enough. How many of us feel this way? And it may be times, it may just be periods of time that you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm an imposter or I'm not good enough. This is where I would say, if you still feel like you're not good enough, go back to your purpose. Find time, go back to your purpose. And then when we get to gratitude, the I'm not good enough, we have to rewrite often. We have to rewrite often. And if you know me, I'm funny too. So I do that. I'm smart enough, good enough, brave enough, fast enough, all of those other things. And somebody loves me. So, but I'm not good enough will creep in. You have to address it when it creeps in. Address it immediately. Jennifer, thank you for joining us today. She doesn't know how to rewrite fear of losing control. Does somebody want to help her with that? Her fear is loss of control. Hey, look, I'm seeing the thing. Go ahead.
I guess I would ask for control of what? There are some things you can control, some things that are out of your control.
Yeah. All things. All things. Okay.
Ooh.
Jennifer, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I do have a teenager in the background making himself lunch. So if you guys hear that, that's why I have to do that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it affects a lot of my life. I can't even identify exactly what, but I think, I'm a single mom, so I fear losing my job. I fear having panic attacks in public. I fear failing on a project. I fear sometimes driving down the road because I'm going to have a panic attack. I mean, I've got my own anxiety stuff. And then I fear what if I fail my kids? What if all of it, that's why I said all the things.
All the things, all the things.
Yeah.
So first of all, breathe in really big and exhale all of that out, because you just gave us a lot. Second, thank you for being vulnerable. I mean, every time we're together, you share openly and honestly, and I so appreciate you. The one thing that I would say to you, and again, this is just from my journey, and please, the rest of you, please share too, anything that you think would add value to Jennifer. But from my journey, I would say, you don't give yourself enough grace. So you're your worst critic. You don't give yourself enough grace. And at the end of the day, we could have a conversation, and I would say, Jennifer, if you lost your job, then what?
You find a new one.
Yep. Right. And if you didn't do that project exactly right, then what?
Do the next one, learn from my mistakes.
Yep. See, I could go down the whole list. Right. So I know you personally, and I know that you're a powerhouse and you're amazing. Give yourself some grace and know this. Know that so far, nothing that God has given you or the universe has given you, you haven't been able to overcome. Know that you have the strength to do that going forward too. So give yourself some grace and stop spending energy on the what ifs.
Yeah, it's good. Good rewrite. I'm writing this in my notes section on my phone, so it's with me all the time. Thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody, anything else on fears? Did I get everybody in the chat box? Did I miss any? Rob, did I miss anything in chat box? Am I all caught up?
Looks like you're all caught up. I was just reviewing it as well, and it looks like for the most part, I think you're good.
Okay, good. So here is where some of the homework starts, team. Let's see if my screen, we are going to actually implement and manifest it, right? So manifesting is a little bit different than defining, right? Defining was just the bullet points. I really want you to spend some time, and I'm going to give you like 3-4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes here. And I want you to write what the best version, or not even the best, let's just say the next version, the next best version of you looks like. And I want you to think about 6 months from now or a year from now. I don't want you to go any further than that. 6 months from now or a year from now. When you hit that date, what are you going to have, do, be, or have seen? And how is it going to feel? I want you to tell me, how are you going to feel when all of those things, whatever they are, be specific and define them, when all of those things come to fruition? This is where we connect the feelings. And I promise you, if I share mine, there will be tears. Okay, so first question, did everybody feel it? Send it in chat box. Did you really, when you manifested it and you wrote down what it looks like in a year, 6 months from now, did you really feel it? Yay! My job is complete today. So that's the intention of this, is we don't take pause to, figure out and ask for and give ourselves permission to seek what we want. Instead, we focus on the things we don't want. And Denise and I had a conversation about that in chat. So if you all felt it, this is amazing. Who wants to share? Anybody? Anybody want to unmute and share with the group?
This is Kathleen. I'll share.
Thank you.
So I saw myself being very confident in my skills in a new job. I saw my skills, or just being confident in who I have grown to be as a person. And I found myself liking myself as much as I like my friends.
That is amazing. Did you stand up a little taller? Because as you were saying it, I leaned up a little bit taller.
I did, actually, yeah.
Yeah, your body language changed.
I felt this every day.
Every day. If you need to rewrite this afterward and hang it somewhere in your office, do that. Who else wants to share?
Kelly, this is Jen. I'll share.
Thank you.
Buckle up, everyone, because it's also vulnerable. But I'm doing the work here. Okay, so I said, so my best version of myself, what it would look like if it came to fruition, would be working out with friends or an accountability team every day, freedom to choose a job that is meaningful and fulfilling, balance my time that is intentional with my sons, there for my children, no matter if it's convenient for me or not, but when it's right for them, traveling any distance with joy, excitement, and curiosity. My workday is filled with a sense of joyful duty of service, and spend every day on personal, intellectual, and spiritual development.
Yes, that is amazing. I would, so a lot of us have words like, so Jennifer, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing. And I could hear your smile get tighter as you were reading that.
It's so true, it was.
Yeah, it was getting bigger. So I couldn't see you, but I know it was getting bigger. Step 2 of this is we do this journey first of all, you all have my number. Call me anytime. You all have each other's number, right? Find your tribe, find your people that lift you up. But as you go into version 2 of manifesting, right, really kind of define what joy and those words that can be, you know, they can just be kind of mass words and not really have good definition. So really, like, what does happy mean to you? What does joyful mean to you? What does purposeful mean to you? So in step 2 of this, right, as you do this another time, dig deeper into that as well. Great, thank you for sharing. So who else wants to share? We have time for a couple more.
I could go.
Yes, please.
So I want to do this really big project. It's something I've never done before. I don't have past experience, but I want to do end-of-life work. I've trained as an end-of-life doula, and I want to start a legacy project, getting people to write down their experiences, do workshops, and I want to do educational, death education to children, to adults, to groups, just to really talk to people about getting more comfortable about this kind of thing. Yeah. And so I've been, my biggest thing is finances. You know, I can't just quit work. Well, right now I'm unemployed, but I can't just quit work and hope that this will buoy me up. I don't have enough money set aside to be able to live until a business takes off. And then I finally said, I'm not getting paid now. So what does it matter if I don't get paid right away, as long as I'm doing this, as long as I'm fulfilling this mission, as long as somebody invites me to come and talk to them about it, as long as I get it started. What difference is it that I get paid a little bit or nothing than what I'm actually doing now? So that's where I kind of turned the corner in this assignment. Before I was just like, but then I turned the corner and I saw, yeah, what's the difference? Do it. I just turned 59 2 days ago, so do it now.
Absolutely. That is amazing work. And I don't know if you saw Jennifer's comment in the box, but she said, I hope that you see it come to fruition because it's beautiful work that you have in your heart. So, and I think that, you know, all of us would second that comment. So even, let's take the pandemic out of it, right? So you're not working now, probably pandemic related. Even if you go back full time, because you probably need insurance, right? And all this stuff is easier said than done. So you're probably going to go to work for somebody else. You're probably going to have a secure paycheck and you're probably going to have a job. My challenge to you would be still, what can you do today to get one step closer to your dream? Because if you don't start now, you're never going to start.
Yeah.
Right. So many of us who have dreams and are entrepreneurs, and that we were doing multiple things. So there's still things you can do today. Thank you for sharing. That was so great. Keep us posted too. Anybody else want to share before we go to the last 2 slides? Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask for more participation in these things as well. Well, actually, the next one I'm going to ask for more participation. So invest in yourself, right? In your personal growth. So I'm a firm believer, which I think most of us on this call will, and Jerry will give me a big thumbs up too, is we have to be human sponges. The minute we stop learning, we stop growing. So whether it's academically, I learn from you, each and every one of you on this call. If we've interacted, there's something, I promise you, there's something I've taken away from you. I'm still watching you, I'm learning, I'm growing. I grow from human interaction. I'm listening to things. I watch my children. I'm growing in 1,000 different ways every day. Invest in yourself and grow, whatever that looks like. Learn new information. Do not get stuck in your cycle of, you know it all, or you have all the tools, because I promise you there's so much more out there. Look at your manifesting. Like, Jennifer shared a whole bunch of stuff on hers. Marla shared stuff on hers. And I would look at you to ask, what is one thing that you can do? You can invest in yourself in some way today to get one step closer to that version. And just make one commitment. What are you going to do? Write that down. One commitment, what you're going to do to get one step closer to what you manifested today. Jerry, read daily. Readers are leaders. You're right. They are. They are. Even if you're slow, you still read. Like, I'm a slow reader, but I still do it. The next slide. So does everybody have one thing written down that they're going to commit to get them one step closer? All right. The next slide is gratitude. Be grateful. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper than being grateful, because I think that we hear that often. It can become what I call white noise, you know, like that white background noise on a TV. I want to talk about what are ways that you show gratitude every single day. So either unmute yourself or type something in the chat box, but what are ways that you show gratitude every single day? I'll go first with mine. So there's a few ways I show gratitude. Journaling is one, and that's where I want people's input. If there's any amazing journalers out there, please give me tips, because it's still an area that I can improve on with consistency and discipline, even though I'm committed to it. I journal, and then I have, oops, my daughter stole them off my desk yesterday, so obviously I'm teaching her, but I have a box of thank you cards on my desk, and every single day my goal is to write one thank you to somebody who's made some kind of impact in my life, or maybe even ask, like the one that I sent out 2 days ago was somebody called me just to ask how my day was, and it was just so kind and thoughtful that it made an impact on me. Send positive comments to people on LinkedIn. Tips for journaling. There is no right way, even if it's, you know, one sentence of gratitude that is better than nothing, even if it's one word. Thank you, Jennifer. I just feel like I should be doing better on that. Where are my journalers in the world? Raise your hand. Do we have journalers? People journal every day? Got a couple. Keep your hands up so I can see them. Got a couple. Oh, see, there's not many of us. Okay, so what other ways do we show gratitude?
Kelly, one of the things, and people who have been on our calls over the last 2 months may have heard me say this, but I use my iPhone in the audio texting, and I will send a prayer out to folks as thank you for being a friend, or just praying for them. I show my gratitude to them by praying for them, and I try to do 5 daily. It's not always done, but I try to get through as many as I can. So that's one of the ways I love to show gratitude towards others.
Thank you for sharing. I've shared, I forgot it was you, but I've shared your story with several people. Now I'm going to go back, and when I say it again, I'm going to say it's Jerry Johnson, right? I shared your story of how when people say, you know, pray for me, or could you pray for me, or just showing gratitude, that you're literally doing it right there with them on the phone, or you're sending them a message. So thank you. Yes, the best thing is to receive. So look, gratitude is not, it's not something that I want to become white noise in our world. It's not something that I don't think we practice enough. I think that we tell ourselves that we're grateful and that we're blessed and we have all of these things, but I don't think we are intentional enough about it. So gratitude is, or being grateful, there is no right or wrong way. Just pick something, write down something that you're going to do to be grateful. We reap what we sow, and there's 1,000 verses. I'm sure Rob could help me in here and think of 1,000 verses that this ties back to. But during this pandemic, I can tell you that being grateful and showing gratitude has really changed my perception of things and how I've behaved. Okay, and lastly, seriously, this is not to be taken lightly either, is we need to breathe. I don't know about you guys, but I'm totally zoomed out. We're Zooming every day. I'm sitting in front of my computer longer hours. And one of the best things that I learned being a human sponge from one of my peers and people that mentor me is sitting up and literally breathing, being intentional about breathing. Yep, I see Jim over there moving his neck, right? That feels good too. But take pause, especially when you feel tense, or Jennifer, when you feel like you're losing control of something, and big breaths in, big breaths out, and do it a few times. It really kind of realign. I call it recentering myself. It recenters me. So that's all I have today. What do you guys have? What are your takeaways? Any questions? Nothing, no more questions for me or anything? Okay, so one request that I have is everybody write one takeaway in the chat box, and then have a blessed day. And I'll stay on for a few minutes if you have any additional questions. One takeaway in the chat box. Stop the what ifs. Remind yourself to breathe. Manifest is it is a process, and a process that we need to practice. Positive reinforcement, be intentional. Stop the conceptual thoughts. Write your story. False evidence appearing real. Yep, take the next steps to a better me. 10,000 steps to a healthier me. I love that, Jerry. Rewrite my story. Ask if it's technical or conceptual. Okay, Jerry, any last words from your side?
Now, I think Rob's going to close us out, but again, we just thank everybody for joining us. What a wonderful time of self-reflection, as well as hearing from others. But Rob's going to close us out, and then we'll be done.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Kelly. What a blessing it was to be able to have you with us. And we want to just thank everybody, everybody who's participated in our Engage. What a great time that we had. We really appreciate your support of First Fridays. And we pray that this Engage 2020, although we had to really, to use the overused word of our quarantine, pivot, right? We had to really pivot, and we're very thankful for our leadership team that was able to do that, and for you just jumping on there with us and taking the ride. So we've had some great times. If you want to see the other Engage sessions, please check out the First Fridays Fort Wayne YouTube page, and make sure to, what do? We subscribe. That's what we do. We subscribe to the YouTube page of First Fridays. Also, if you're on social media, make sure you're subscribing to our First Fridays Fort Wayne Facebook page, as well as LinkedIn. Let's see, a couple of things I just want to throw out there. Our first season or session of season 4 First Fridays is looking at September 4th. And so if everything goes the way we're hoping it's going to go, tentatively, we are still scheduled to meet 8 a.m. sharp on September 4th at the Cashman Auditorium and be able to actually be together once again. So we're so looking forward to that. Please, if you're subscribed to these things, you'll stay posted. If anything changes, we'll make sure to make an announcement. So just be aware of that. Also, we have a very special interview that with our First Fridays co-founders, Jerry and Jim Johnson, that was recorded at our beautiful IW studio in Marion, and that'll be dropping on our social media soon. So please keep an eye out for that. Don't forget, we also have our high five moments that drop on our social media every Tuesday and every Thursday. And we're doing those all summer long. So just to keep connected with First Fridays and our First Fridays family. So other than that, I think that we've had an incredible day today. Thank you again, Kelly. Thank you again for all of you for being here with us. And until we see each other again, Be humble, be grateful, be kind, and know that you're in our thoughts and our prayers. God bless you all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
God bless you guys. Bye, Kelly.